Hey everybody, welcome to the Coffee Chats and all of that series where we talk a little bit about a lot. This is a safe and judgment-free space where we want to be 100 with you about all our experience. So grab your coffee.
Or your alternate choice of beverage.
In other words, alcohol. And let's get chit-chatting. Well, before we start, we just want to thank everyone for their support on our first video, the assumptions about turning 30. We really appreciate that and we feel so grateful, and we're excited to be back with this video.
Flash also wants to thank you also. He says high five.
Yeah, he's joining us today for this video. Today, the topic is relationship goals.
Alright. Relationships.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about different types of relationships. I don't know, this one's going to be interesting, I think.
As always, generally with these things, I don't know what we're going to do.
When I say relationship, what's the first word that comes to your mind?
My wife. First thing I think about when I think of relationships is probably my fiance and my baby and this little guy.
What do you think is like the essential ingredient for a successful any relationship, not just like a husband-wife type relationship, but with anyone?
I think it probably would be very different for every relationship, but I would say, I guess, honesty, and people can tell pretty quickly when you're full of crap, whether it's your partner or any other relationships.
I think the one thing about relationships is personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be, I mean, you say honesty, and yes, that is definitely a key thing, but it's like, what if somebody's personality is the type of personality where honesty doesn't work for them, like it hurts their feeling?
It hurts them to tell the truth. Is this Pinocchio?
I'm just saying, like, if you know, like a person that, I don't know, like you were to be brutally honest with them about something that you disliked about them, and then that hurt their feelings, like that's not really a good way to go about a relationship.
I think there's different levels of honesty. I think it all just has to be brutal honesty.
You're backtracking now.
I'm not, you still got to be honest, but... So, before we started this chat, we said, hey, do we have enough memory in this memory card before we start? Yes! Yes, we do. We did not, so we had to have a quick intermission. Just letting the people know why there was a little time out, why it may have been, and because I don't remember where we left off when it stopped, so how much it makes sense, I don't know, but...
We were talking about honesty.
Honesty?
Yeah. And you were about to tell a story.
Oh my god, what was the story? The story that I was going to say is, it's not, sometimes, you know, being honest isn't the best thing. Like when I threw you a surprise birthday party and you threw me like 7th surprise birthday parties. If I was honest and told you we were having a party for you, it would have been a terrible surprise.
I've got 6 groups of people that we have relationships with, and I thought we could just go through them and have a little bit of chat of what relationship goals looks like for each group.
Okay.
The first one is work colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe your relationship with work colleagues?
See, work colleagues are an interesting one because you get a lot of they're just your work colleagues, you work with them, you got a job to do, and you need to get that done. But at the same time, you spend as much time with your work people as you do with your family almost, so... But
how do you approach a relationship with work colleagues? And especially you as a manager, I mean,
well, I think
a lot of people look up to you at work. Like, how do you go about building friendships?
They look up to me, but I think there's certain ways you can interact with different groups of people, and you might not act the same with your boss. I know I wouldn't act the same with our big bosses as I probably would with colleagues that I interact with more on a daily level and that are more similar to me. And again, you might act differently with people that you're managing. Again, as a boss or as a worker, you have a certain job to do.
But you've always been very removed from your work colleagues. Like you've always kept your work peeps and your other friends and whatnot and family separate. Whereas me, I think pretty much every job that I've had, I've become really good friends with at least one person, to the point where I'm still friends with them today. I mean, just since we've moved to Canberra, I've changed like 4 or 5 jobs. And even from my very first job here in Canberra, I'm still really good friends with Jessie, who I met.
I think probably a big difference between the two of us as well, or between the two of our jobs itself, is most of the time that, you know, I've been working at Canberra, there's generally a decent age gap between the people that I work with. Whereas I guess with you, you've been working more with people who are, you know, closer to your own age, or, you know, have similar stages in their lives.
My friend group, like the age ranges. Like I've got really good friends who are in their 40s, 50s. And then I'm friends with like Jessie and Gigi, who are in their 20s.
Yeah, but we're in their 20s.
Mid to late 20s.
Yeah, and you're 30. So there's like 2-3 years, whereas I'm 30 and I work with 19, 20-year-olds.
But I hang out with people that are like 21, 22 as well.
Like I said, I get along with everyone at work. Like, you have to get along with your people at work. If you don't like and hang out, like working with, if you don't like enjoying with the people you work with, you're not going to enjoy your work. I guess for me is I don't have a big circle of friends, and I guess most of my close friends came generally through sport. So while I guess for us, looking at us two again, you know, your main interaction was with your people at work. You didn't have a lot of external groups, whereas I find my social time more with, you know, sports, my sporting teams, where I actually spend more time with. So, you know, most of my friends that I do hang out with generally come from that background.
How do you go about, like, if there's someone at work that you're really good with and you're close with and you're getting along fine, but they're always, like, they like to step on toes to get ahead of you, say? Like, how do you go about that?
Look, I do my work and I do it well. And
way to toot your own horn.
Like, you do your job and you do it well.
How would you feel like if you got in trouble because of something somebody else did and they say blamed it on you? Like how do you approach that person?
Well, if they're blaming me for something that I actually did, then I probably deserve to get in trouble. But if it's just somebody making up stuff, then that stuff comes out pretty quickly. Like, I think I've built a good reputation at my work with, I guess, my bosses and superiors, that I know I can be honest.
I just want to say that Zee, this guy here, our friend Zee, does not have an issue with confrontation. I think that's what makes you a good manager.
Look, I'm not a big fan of confrontation.
Yeah, but you do it. Whereas
if I need to, I will. And I guess the thing for me is, you know, as a manager or a boss, it's, you need to have clear expectations for your staff, and everyone needs to know what their role is, and that's not just even work. Like, I think that's even in our sporting teams anywhere. Like, people need to know what their role is and what their expectations are of them. And, you know, you hold people accountable to that. Everyone's there to do a job. You know, I'm there to do a job, and my superiors will hold me accountable for what I need to do. And you just do your job. And if somebody steps out of line, if somebody's not doing their job, like, you know, you're not managing the person, you're managing the behavior or the outcome.
Well, for someone that isn't a manager, that goes into work every single day, like, I love to make friends at work. And I've made some really, really good friends. I would say probably my best friends here in Canberra have all been from past jobs.
Yeah. And like I said, you know, you know, I'm actually finding myself working more with people, you know, closer to my age, and, you know, some of those relationships are starting to, you know, they're a little bit different. Like, I can have more conversations with them.
You're just more professional at work, I
Definitely.
think.
And I don't have a lot of friends, and I find the ones that I have, I keep close to me, and I don't need a big circle, I guess.
Do you think it's okay to do things the way that I do, where you make friends for life through your work?
100%. Like, you're going to meet people, and like I said, you didn't have that opportunity elsewhere. Like, you had to find that at work.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think it's like, and I guess for me, it's you need to enjoy the people that you're working with, and having grown through, I guess, the management levels and starting off as, an employee and, in previous jobs, and then, running my own business when I was PTing and then helping those guys run their business, and, the people you work with really are so much more important than the job itself. When I was working as a PT, the reason I left that job was because my boss was let go, which I still don't agree with to this day, because I think he was fantastic at his job, and they brought a new person who was terrible. This guy changed the complete culture in the company, just in that PT environment, and very quickly we had probably 3 out of 8 or 9 senior PTs leave. And that's why I left. I loved my job, but I just couldn't handle working with this guy who I didn't have any respect for. I didn't value the way he was going around talking to people, and that didn't work. So, for me now, it's, as a manager or someone in that position, it's important for me to have those relationships and know that my staff feel comfortable to come and talk to me, but at the same time they still know what the expectations of them are.
And I guess it is hard to be friends with management. Like, I don't think I've been friends with a manager. I became really, really close with my old manager, and we're still really, really good friends once she left. All right, let's move on, because I didn't really want to dive deep into work colleagues.
It's a tough one. And again, like I said, work is the one you spend as much time with as you do with your family. So
it's true. Probably 3 of the jobs that I've left so far was because of the people that I work with.
Yeah, like I said, you ask most people when they leave their jobs why they left. It's not normally the work that they do. Again, I see it in my industry all the time, like, being in the fitness industry. I've had that many people in this industry who, have come from a public service background and, were making, 6 figures, really high incomes, but didn't enjoy the lifestyle, didn't enjoy the people that they were living with, and came across into the fitness industry, which I can tell you now is not an industry you come to get rich in. Is you come to an industry because you love the people, you love, the culture.
You mean you don't have them dollar bills?
And, it's, you end up working in a place that, you enjoy. This cough has been here for about 3 weeks now.
Hashtag not corona.
Hashtag not corona. Got tested yesterday.
And it is hard with work, with like social media. I remember like my top manager, she added me on Facebook, and I did hesitate. I hesitated for a few days. I was like, do I add her? Do I not? I don't even post that much on my Facebook, but this is like, a timeline of your life.
Well, look, I mean, social media is another thing, and I mean, it's probably a deeper dive, but like when I recruit, I will look people up on social media.
Stalker alert!
And see,
Stalker alert!
That's where a lot of people show their real selves, and sometimes you need to be careful what you share.
I wouldn't say their real selves.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
A highlight reel. Alright, let's move on.
Let's move on.
The next one is parents, mothers and fathers.
Oh my god. Or grandmothers or grandfathers.
No, just parents.
Okay, just mothers and
fathers. For the
fathers.
sake of the video, describe your relationship with your parents.
I love my mother and I love my father. We moved states. No, our parents are great. We're very lucky in how much support we get from both of our parents. And
actually, on that note, I moved, and because I physically moved out of my parents' house, I saved my relationship with my mother. And the same thing for my sister. And it was just the situation at the time, and we had just been living together for so long. And
look, I think my word for your parents is going to be courage. As in, your parents
I was not expecting courage.
Your parents aren't always going to want to hear what you want to say. They're not going to always agree with what you want to say or what you want to do. Your parents are always going to have your best interest in heart. They're always going to want you to do things to be successful. But their path might not always be the path that you want, and sometimes you have to have the courage to be able to speak up to your parents. And I'm not talking about like a 13-year-old crying because he got a PlayStation instead of an Xbox. PlayStation all the way.
Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot relate to that scenario at all.
Your parents painting your room green when you wanted a blue room. I mean,
Okay,
it didn't happen,
that
but
didn't happen. They painted it blue because.
but imagine if they
blue.
painted it green. You would have been real mad.
It's
Okay, anyway, my point is, as you grow older and you know what you know, once you start making your own decisions, you need to be, you know, courageous enough, I guess, to speak up to your parents and
it's tough, and this
tell
goes
the
back.
truth.
It goes back to what I said before, which is personalities. My parents come from a very traditional background, and they had very traditional views. They were quite open-minded for their, I'm going to say, cohort, because there were a lot of people around them their age that didn't understand some of the choices that myself and my sister made. In that sense, I guess my parents were a bit more progressive, but because they were a lot more traditional, there were a lot of clashes.
Yeah, well, I've said to you a few times that I think you've needed to be more honest with your parents about what you want and what you're trying to do. I can look at my parents and the relationship.
Yeah, but your parents are a lot more chill.
Again, but
like super chill.
Yeah, but it's always different with other parents. I do not have any problems with your parents. Just, I think other people's parents are always easier because.
But even
they're
when I
not
look
your
at
parents.
your, like the way
But
that
again,
you
like
are,
my relationship with my parents has not always been smooth. Like I've had to have arguments with my mother and my father, you know, when I finished uni and I wanted to do a Bachelor of Sports and Science degree. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you go do doctor or go do radiology or do something? You know, there's guaranteed money in there. Like, what job are you going to have? And I was like, you know, there was that big rift there, and it probably wasn't until I finished and I actually got a job and I started working. And then, you know, 3-4 years later, they're going, well, actually, look, he knows what he's doing. We've got to trust him.
and this is the really, really hard thing about, well, especially like parents from the background that they come from, where you go to uni but get a degree in something that will make you money rather than get a degree in something that will make you happy. My dad was like that, so I feel really thankful because he was always like, get a degree in something that makes you happy. Doesn't matter what it is, just get a degree so you have a degree to fall back on if your other ventures, you know, don't work out.
Like, it probably wasn't until you graduated and you got a job in communications that started paying well when they realized, oh, hey, like...
To be fair, I don't think my parents thought I would ever graduate. We just thought I would just keep going to school and keep studying. Look, my sister and I, we grew up in a community that was very, very competitive. And unfortunately, there were times where my parents fell into that sort of trap of the competitiveness, which sucks, but that was the reality of the community at the time.
Yeah, see, I've never really been exposed to that. Like, my parents were generally, yes and no, I guess. Like I said, I definitely had my highs and lows with my parents.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you had a maths test, for instance, in high school, and you got 93% on that maths test, and you shared that news with your parents, what was their reaction?
Oh, mate, I didn't even share a lot of the stuff. I would generally just get home and be like, had a maths test, went great. Okay, bye.
I think I didn't fail.
In my room. You know, you probably had more communication with your parents than what I did with mine.
Oh, mate, it got to the point where my parents would literally put when we had exams into their calendar.
Yeah. And again, like I said, your parents were doing everything that you can for your best. And when you're young, it's hard. You know, you don't
absolutely.
you don't really know what's best for you.
Everything came from a place of love, but it got to the point where, you know, we would do really, really well on tests, but that wasn't good enough. And that was really, really tough. And growing up with that, my sister and I started to rebel, which is why we had all these differences and this massive gap between the way that we wanted to live our life and the way that our parents had envisioned a life for us, which is where a lot of our...
Or do you think you're living more of a life that your parents envisioned or that you envisioned?
I guess a bit of both. I mean, like I said in the last video, I had envisioned to be single and living in New York.
Well, look, I don't think your parents envisioned that.
No, they definitely...
And again, just even look at the move. Like, I don't think either of our parents really was for the move. Like, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you moving? You haven't thought this through. What are you going to do there? You're still studying. You haven't got a job. Like, but it was just a, hey, sit them down. Have that courage to say, this is my decision. This is what I'm doing. You can either support me or, you know, I can call you once a month and let you know how things are going with a thumb up emoji. So again, your parents are not going to like your decisions, but they'll come around. How long did your dad not talk to you when you got your nose pierced?
It was a good month.
Well, he didn't talk to you for a month, and then after a month, it was kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, like your parents will eventually come around. They're your parents, they'll love you.
It's not like I was 13 and I got it pierced. I was 21, so I was like, I'm an adult, I can do what I want, pierced my nose, and Dad was like, I don't think so, girl. No, not under this roof.
I mean, look, when we bought our car, both the parents, and they probably still to this day go, why would you do that? Why would you spend that money on the car? You don't need that. We did it, and they got over it, and...
I mean, our relationship, at least my relationship with my parents, is a lot better now than it was 10 years ago.
I think since we've met, you've probably started opening up, not opening up to your parents a bit, but being more...
It's a bit on both sides. Yeah, I've started opening up to my parents a bit more, but I think they've also broadened. And
again, I think a lot of it comes with the fact that, you know, what you do, if you're passionate in what you do, whether your parents like it or not, if you're passionate about what you do, you'll be successful, and your parents just want you to be successful, and they'll argue and, you know, try to push their ways on you because they think they know what's best, and, you know, a lot of the times they do. They're your parents, you know, they've made the same mistakes that, you know, we've made in the past. But once they see that, hey, like, this person actually knows what they're doing, and, you know, they feel comfortable that they can step back and go, you know, this person's actually being successful, they're doing what they want, and they can step back.
I think it's okay, like, especially if you're a little bit younger, it's okay to sometimes do what you want to do and know that your parents don't always know what's best for you. Like, you sometimes know what's best for you.
Yeah.
And it will be challenging, it will be hard, there will be so many fights, screams, conversations that go on, but in the long run, like, you're going to prefer it. Then imagine if I did everything that my parents told me to do. I would hate my life.
Yeah. Would you prefer to have parents who, you know, didn't care how you went at school, showed no interest in what you did? You know, you came home and you got 10% in a maths test, and they went, yeah, whatever, you don't need school, you can do this. You know, there's parents that showed no interest in their kids.
That's a fair point.
What would you have preferred that? You know, like, everyone has their own situation, and I don't think anyone, you know, any, you know, person growing up with their parents, you know, you're going to have disagreements. You know, you're becoming your own person. In the end, you know, your parents are trying to do what's best for you majority of the time.
And we are blessed to have both our parents around, and
oh my god, this guy's just falling asleep.
They're super supportive of everything that we want to do. They're super helpful. I honestly...
Oh my god, so much hair.
I can't say a bad word for my parents or for your parents. That's just the experience that we had.
Like I said at the start, we're very blessed with our parents and what we have.
Yep. Do you want to say anything else? Can I move
No,
on?
I think I probably drank a lot more in this category than I will in any other one.
We love you, mum and dads. So the next group or people that I want to talk about are siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a brother, I have a sister.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe your relationship with your brother?
We're both the oldest too, so I'm...
What do you mean we're both the oldest? You're not the oldest.
Oh no. That's so funny. I don't know why I just thought we were both the oldest. That's really funny. I'm not the oldest, you're the oldest, I'm the youngest, so, you know, oh, that's too funny. You're the oldest, I'm the youngest. We both have one sibling each. Like you said, I got one older brother, you got one younger sister. Yeah, I love my brother. We are quite similar and quite different in a lot of aspects. You know, I think the way we look at things, we're probably quite different. You know, I think we both want similar things in life and stuff, but I think our approach is very different.
Yeah.
But I think we respect that about each other. Being the younger, you know, I always grew up a little bit in his shadow. My brother was that, you know, star student, you know, high grades, you know, really loved both his teachers and everything, and, you know.
Did they compare you a lot to him? Like,
yeah,
you've
always.
got to do this because your brother's doing it?
You know, I got that from my parents, I got that from, you know, my teachers. You know, my brother became an engineer, he went to uni, so that's probably where a lot of my...
bragging.
Hashtag bragging. You know, that's where a lot of it came from, and it was its own challenge, you know, like, teachers, oh, you're such and such brother, he's such a great student. I always remember that getting into high school and stuff. But yeah, I think it also did push me a little bit as well to try and, compete with him. And there was definitely, that aspect there. I think we've always pushed each other to be successful. We haven't always agreed. But we're, in the end of the day, like whichever decision we make, we're both always going to support each other, whether we think it's right or wrong.
I'm curious to know, like, if my parents did that to my sister, because I'm obviously the oldest and I was never really compared to her in that way. My sister and I we glued up. Oh yeah, we did that glue. We grew up super, super close. And I think my parents pretty much pushed us together all the time. And I guess like you and your brother, like we went around the world with them, like, and we moved from place to place to place, and you always see new faces and meet new people, but she was always there. For me, she's always a safety net. And so whenever I'm feeling low or whatever, like she's the one person that I can just call and just be my vulnerable self. I could never understand those siblings that are like, nah, I'm not close to my sister or I'm not close to my brother, because I'm like, how? Like, my sister is my world. Before I met you, obviously.
I think it's hard. I mean, I know people who obviously aren't close with, their siblings, and, like I've never been a believer that, blood makes family, That's some Fast and Furious Vin Diesel. Family is everything. But
it's true. There is the family that you're born into.
Like I said, we're lucky that our family supports us and that we do have strong relationships with our family. But at the same time, like I know many people who aren't close with their family, and that's okay. Like they don't hate each other, but they're just different people. They're very different. They have different views on lives.
Well, having said that, like
they're still courteous with each other, but
it's me and my sister. You don't have a lot of family here in Australia. Like, you didn't grow up with a lot of family, whereas we did. We have so much family here, but we are not close to hardly any of them. Like, it's kind of like at family functions, we might say hi, bye. You just grow and you have different interests to the people in your family.
Sure. Like I said, like I, growing up, like, I hung out with my brother and his friends, and, they took me along, sometimes begrudgingly, but like I went along with him to do stuff, and I'm sure you brought your sister along with your friends, and like in a lot of the ways, being the youngest, while it was tough being compared, it was like I was lucky to be able to have somebody else who paved the way. He did things that was harder, and like once he's done them, like my parents won't be as hard on me doing the same things because they've already kind of gone through that. So
that's true, they are more lenient. When I became of a certain age and I realized what was going on, I tried everything to protect my sister and to make life a lot easier for her, so she didn't have to have the same struggles that I did. I
need to make sure I lead my brother to make the correct decisions, because without me leading him, he would be lost in this world.
He does make some doozies, doesn't he?
I'm sorry, brother, but
sorry, bruv.
You need me.
We love you.
You need me. Get Wi-Fi at your house. This guy lives in 2021 and his house still doesn't have Wi-Fi. Grow up.
And to add to that, they got like a robot vacuum cleaner for Christmas that only works on Wi-Fi. So they haven't been able to use it for what, like 9-10 months now because they don't have Wi-Fi. Okay, the next significant other. How would you describe your relationship?
How many more have we got of these?
How would you describe your relationship with me?
Has anyone ever been on a roller coaster? Like every day? And then you have a child? And then like you realize that like the roller coaster gets bigger and lower?
Or it's just stuck upside down and you're there for hours.
You're on the pirate ship and you just get to that upside down and you're just like...
It's really not that bad.
No, it's not. Like, I think significant others, I think, should be the easiest of them, in the sense that, from what have we spoken about so far? I mean, I guess other than work, but even work, I guess, this is the one that you choose. You choose to be with the person, your significant, with your significant other for us, we chose for each other. So you better hope that, it works because you made that decision.
I think it's a little bit easier for us because we're both quite open and quite chill and quite supportive, in that I can tell you I want to do this, and even if you don't agree with it, like, you'll tell me that you don't agree with it, but you'll still support me in it. Whereas that's not the case for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people struggle because their significant other isn't supportive, or is a very my way or the highway type personality. So that obviously becomes hard, or is high maintenance. I mean, I think I can be high maintenance sometimes.
No.
I mean, this is why we're not married,
This is why we're not
married. You never know.
Yeah, like, I think we both want the same things, and we both enjoy the same things. We are quite different, I think, in certain aspects, but I think that also brings a little bit of balance. You definitely get worked up about things a lot more than I do. And
do not.
I'm definitely, I guess, the calmer one in the two, but at the same time, you're actually a lot more detail orientated than me. So, at home, gets done, stuff gets done. Whereas with me, I'd probably just go, I can do it after. I can make my bed before I sleep in it. No. So there's balance.
But before you met me, have you ever made your bed?
Oh, I did. When I had, people come over. When you came over. I did recently read, that's a lie. I heard a podcast or something, definitely didn't read. But I heard a thing which was pretty interesting. It was, doing your bed in the morning is a great start to the day, because it gives you, in a sense, that you've accomplished something, you've done something. Like, first thing, you've achieved the task, you can get up and say you've done something. It's a good way to start your day. So now I make my bed. And it has nothing to do with that quote. It's just because if I don't, then she will tell me to, and I'd rather just...
Well, let's do a little bit of couples therapy here,
couples
because
therapy.
we have obviously the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
What's sort of the one thing or the one habit that I have that frustrates you like no other? Oh, this could get juicy, guys. Stop it. Oh my god.
It's not even annoying. Like I said, I think it's just, we are different in the things. Like, when it comes to, if I've just eaten my breakfast and I've left my things on the table, and, I'm sitting there and I'm watching or chilling and doing whatever I want, and in my head, I'll go do that in a second when I'm done. I don't need to do that right now. The Queen's not coming over.
The problem is with that is you don't do it. Like, the other day, you had your breakfast, you were watching your NBA summer series, you put your plate on the couch, and I was like, that's fine. Before he leaves to go to work, he's going to put the plate in the dishwasher. Anyways, that was fine. I was like, I'll let it be. I went and changed the baby, said goodbye to you. You went into the car, went off to work. I came out, that plate was still on the couch.
It was an emergency at work.
And my issue is, you got up from the couch, you left your plate there, you got up from the couch, you walked to the kitchen, you picked up your lunch for the day. Why wouldn't you just have, as you got up to walk to, you're going to the kitchen anyway, just pick up your plate.
I just straight up forgot my plate. Yeah, to me it's like, okay, I forgot my plate, I'll put it in there when I get home.
I can't handle it.
And that plate was there for 2-3 days.
I can't handle it. The one thing that I cannot handle is when the house is atrocious, it's a big mess, there's so much to do. You come to me and you're like, what do you need me to do? Have a look around, okay? You can see that the vacuuming needs to be done. You can see dishes in the sink that need to be put away. Just use your eyes and look around. Stop asking me. And I'll be like, oh, can you go do the washing? He'll go do the washing. He'll come back. Oh, what do you need me to do next? I can't just list everything off for you. You're not a little boy.
It's so hard. And the amount of times I'll start doing something and she'll be like, why are you doing that? That's not on the list. That wasn't on today's. I'm doing that tomorrow. Don't do that now. And I was like, I don't know what to do. chill.
Hey, I do chill.
I think you are definitely a lot more relaxed now than when we first started. And,
Oh god, yeah.
and I'd like to say that I make the bed. Hello.
One time, I think we may have still been living in Belconnen at this stage. But anyway, one time we did like the deep clean of our place, and I made him like dust something random, like the windows or something. I can't remember. I made you dust something. And he came up to me and he was like, oh, do you know, before I met you, I never would have thought to dust this.
No.
I think if I lived alone and never met you, I don't think I would ever dust this. I remember looking at him, my jaw on the floor.
What was it that you were dusting?
I can't remember what it was.
It was something super random.
I made you dust.
It was super random.
Basically, the moral to the story is B dusts everything.
Zee dusts what he can see.
Okay.
That was fun.
It's really hard because we see each other all the time, and you're pretty much the person that I have most of my interactions with, especially since I've been on maternity leave, and now lockdown and all that, #pandemic living. Even if I have a frustration elsewhere, I'm going to take it out on you.
Which is so frustrating.
Because
I don't even know what I did wrong.
You happen to be here.
I think as you go through a relationship, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you're consistently going to come up with things that you disagree with. You know, I think the key is that, you know, you work to it. Like, if there's something that I know that upsets you, I'll try to work around so I can minimize those things.
You can't try and change someone. Like, if you're with someone and you're not happy with the way that they are, and you're like adamant that you can change them and mold them into someone that you want them to be, that's not going to work. And something that they may do that you may not agree with or understand, like, that's okay. I don't understand how you can game for 5 hours on end. But that's okay, because I don't have to game. I mean, I could think of like 1,000 more productive things that you could be doing with that time, but, you know, that's me.
Like watching TikTok?
I don't watch TikTok. I had to remove... TikTok was removed from my phone because I spent hours and hours on it. Now it's Reels.
Yeah, you're less.
If you come into our bedroom at 3 a.m. in the morning, there's a good chance you'll find me watching Reels.
Seriously, I'll get into bed, she'll be like, I'm going to bed now, it's 9 a.m. She's like, you coming to bed soon?
9 a.m.?
9 p.m. You coming to bed soon? I was like, yeah, one more game with the boys. And it's like 12 a.m. It's like midnight. I'm like, crap. That was a little bit longer. And I walk in there, I'm like trying to tiptoe, and then I open the door, and there's lights shining the whole room up. And this woman's still sitting there scrolling through her reels.
Scrolling through my reels. Okay, relationship goals with kids.
It's a bit
As
early.
it's still really early on, but how would you describe your relationship with your son? Non-existent. No, just kidding.
I think we're pretty tight, you know, little homie and I. The other day, like, he farted and, like, he was completely cool with it. Like, he wasn't like, oh no, like, this is so embarrassing. He was just like, whatever.
I think I want him to grow up into someone that relies on us for support, but doesn't need us for everything, so he can be independent. I want to teach him to do things that he can independently. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know I grew up, again, you know, being scared of my parents to the point where a lot of the stuff that I did not inform them because I was too scared to tell them.
Look, kids are going to do things regardless, like whether you like it or not. Your kids will sneak out, or, you know, it's part of growing up. Yeah, obviously we want them to feel comfortable to come talk to us about anything. I think to a certain point, your kids are kids, and, you know, they can't really make smart decisions, you know, until they get to a certain age. You want them to learn and explore and, you know, try to make their own decisions. But
my point is, not every decision has to be a smart one, because you have to let them make mistakes in order for them to learn certain things, right?
Yeah. But again, like, I think it's situational. Like, there's some decisions where, like, it's like, oh, I'm not going to let you make this mistake because it's dumb.
I don't know. That would, I think, depend. I mean, we grew up and it was like every decision that you make has to be a good one. And it's like there was never any room for you to grow or to learn or to make mistakes.
Yeah, but you still grew and you still learn and you still make mistakes.
Yes, behind my parents' back.
Yeah, like I said, kids are going to do it regardless. I think it's important that you need to pick your things. Like there's some times when it's right to let your child make their own mistakes, and then there's times when I think as a parent you have a certain obligation to go, nah, you can't do that. You know, there's times when you let them make their mistakes. If he's walking on something, you're gonna fall. You're gonna fall. I'm not gonna just take him down so if he doesn't fall. So okay, you fell. Now get back up. Do you want to do that again? No. Okay, cool. We learned a lesson today.
All right, next one. Relationship goals with ourselves. How would you describe your relationship with yourself? I think the relationship you have with yourself is definitely the most important one.
If you don't love yourself, how can everybody else love you?
It's not even that. It's like if you're not confident in who you are, like how do you expect to attract people and to build relationships if you're not comfortable with yourself?
Yeah, and if you don't know what you want, if you don't know what you like, if you don't know, how can you build those relationships?
And this is where relationships do get complicated, because a lot of people feel unease and discomfort with themselves because of judgment that they've gotten from other people or other relationships.
And I think this is why you see relationships at a young age. You tend to go through more relationships than you do as you get older. I think partly because when you're young, you're still learning who you are. You're changing. You're with somebody, and then a year later, they've changed. You've changed different directions. So as we get older, I think we actually start knowing who we are and what we want, and it's much easier to communicate with that. And we know what we're looking for in people. It's not just physical attraction or whatever it may be,
I know it's easier said than done, but it's like, give yourself a break. Like,
yeah, you should take that advice.
I need to take that advice. And I do struggle. I compare myself to others all the time. Social media doesn't make it easy, because in the moment when you're scrolling, you're like, oh my God, their life is amazing. You don't really think it's just a highlight reel. Like they're just putting on social media the best version of themselves. And it's like, that's the same thing that you do. That's the same thing that you put on social media, which is why I really like, this conversation that we're having, and like my lunch with B, where I really can be a little bit more raw. And this is who I am. I can't change that. I probably could, but I'm too lazy to.
Too lazy to, or you're just happy with who you're becoming?
I'm happy with who I am. I'm a little bit immature, I'm a little bit quirky. Things that I find interesting might bore some people, but
I said it before, the people around you, if they like who you are, then they'll stick around. If they don't like who you are, then you're probably best losing them and trying to find some new people.
But it's not as easy as they'll like you or they don't like you. It's not everyone's going to love every aspect of you. There are certain aspects of your friends that you dislike, but you're not going to stop being friends with them because of that.
Well, I don't think it's so much necessarily about dislike, but it's, you have different, like I have different friends that I'll game with, I have different friends that I'll play sports with, I have different friends that, I'll do different things with.
Think of one friend in your head. Do you like every single trait and every single quality about them?
Yes.
Are you thinking of me?
No.
Oh, that's mean. Surely there are certain things that they've said or certain things that they do that you just can't get on board with.
Greg, I love everything about you. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever let her think otherwise.
We love your laugh, Greg.
And I also love pizza and hash browns. Look, there's not many people like that, but again, like I said, you like people for not who they are, but like you hang out with people for certain situations. Like if there's people that don't like something, then don't do that with them. Have other people that do that with you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Well, that's all we have to say about relationship goals. Unless, do you have anything else to add?
I really meant what I said, Greg.
Well, in that case, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us, guys. Hopefully we made you laugh and smile and nod your head.
Hopefully you learned something.
When you
something made you go,
Do you? Yeah, when you listen intently to a podcast and you're like, yes, girl, you said it.
Yeah, podcast. Let us know. Should we make this a podcast? Would you find this easier to listen to then?
In the car. Then.
You're not driving anywhere now.
I hope not. So yeah, that's it guys. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Okay, bye now.